Welcome back. A federal high court in Kano on Thursday nullified the Kano Emirates Council Amendment Number 2 Law 2024 that scrapped 4 of the 5 emirate councils of the state last month and removed all the 5 emirs, including Ado Bayero of Kano. Justice Abdullahi Liman ordered the restoration of the Kano Emirates Council Law 2019 that split Kano into 5 emirates of Kano, Bichi, Karaye, Rano, and Gaya.
The judge, however, transferred the case to another federal high court judge, Simon Amobeda, for continuation, given his elevation to the Court of Appeal. Joining us is the managing partner, Crescent Cradle Attorneys, Samson Ojudomo Onuche. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
And thank you for having me on the program.
Great to have you. We're confused this morning, and I'm sure that a lot of Nigerians are confused. I'm sure that even, both emirs are confused as well because nobody knows what exactly the court ruling says. The Kano state government, of course, has interpreted it their way. They have moved ahead to allegedly give orders for the demolition of one of the palaces. Please help Nigerians understand what the ruling is as of this morning.
So, thank you. The issue about the Kano State ruling is an issue that has been subjected to several interpretations by even lawyers and also the society and also the government too. But the interpretation of the situation is simple when you look at or when you actually look at the judgment that the court or the ruling that the court gave on that particular matter. Now, the court gave an order that the status quo should be maintained. And at this stage, it's quite normal that we know what was the status quo that should be maintained that the court gave in order for it to be maintained. Now, the Emirates Council law was passed by the Kano State House of Assembly, and it was assented by the governor. Now, the court made an order that the status quo should be maintained on the 23rd of May, that the status quo should be maintained. As at when the court made an order that the status quo should be maintained, the Kano State Emirates Council law had already been passed and it has already been assented to by the governor. However, there has been no execution of this law as at that stage. So when the court gave an order that the status quo should be maintained, the court stated categorically that the court did not abrogate the Kano State Emirates Council Repeal Law of 2019. The court did not abrogate it. The court actually spoke on the validity of the State House of Assembly to make the law and also for the government to also assent to that law. But what the court was saying was that this particular law should not be given execution until the case before the court is determined. Now, what is the execution that the court was talking about? The execution was going ahead, one, to remove the Emir Ado Bayero, that's one, and number two, the appointment of the Emir Sanusi. Now, after this court order was given, the state government still went ahead to appoint the Emir Sanusi and also remove the former emir that was there. So, and this is in violation of the order that the court initially gave. So, but what the state government was relying on was that why the order was made on the 23rd, that they were not served that order till on the 27th, and they had already taken action in executing the law as at on the 24th. But the court actually reasoned that the governor acknowledged that he sought that order on social media, one, and there was also a video recording that acknowledged that the governor acknowledged that there was an order to that effect. And the order was also served also on the Attorney General of the state, making the court to form an opinion that despite the fact that the state governor was not served that order till on the 27th, that the state government was aware of the situation of the court and the order that the court has made for parties to maintain status quo. So what the status quo means is that, one, that there should not be an execution of that law. The court did not abrogate that law, and the court did not go back to say that the 4 Emirate Councils should be established. What the court says that this law has been passed and it has been assented, but there should not be execution because there is a matter that is pending before the court.
So is what you're saying that so far, what the interpretation of that might mean is that we have, Kano State has the emirs, the both of them still active, because whilst it's, the law cannot go back in time to take effect, but it recognizes the law, but it also, the status quo would then mean that Ado Bayero is still the emir. Is that what you're saying?
With the status quo that the court gave an order to maintain, Ado Bayero still stands to be the emir because the law is still there, one, but this order of the court was that there should not be an execution. So as at the time that the court gave that order, the status quo was that the law is still in place and the law is validly enacted, but that there shouldn't be an execution pending the hearing and determination of the matter that was before the court.
All right, so just once again clarify, the confusion with regards to the jurisdiction of the Federal High Court, to involve itself in these issues.
Now, if you go by that one, number one, the Federal High Court has a specific jurisdiction that has been stated under Section 251 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, among those powers that the Federal High Court has, the Federal High Court lacks jurisdiction to dive into matters that has to do with chieftaincy, and also because that power lies within the states. But what the Federal High Court has reasoned was that the matter before the Federal High Court, the initial matter was that of fundamental rights that was filed, and there was nothing that relates to the chieftaincy in the fundamental right action. But it is also the law that where there are little fundamental right breaches that emanate from even a chieftaincy matter, the court will not even separate that fundamental right action that emanates from the original course of action that actually happened. Because the breaches of fundamental right happens to be a very minute aspect of the whole issues that has transpired in the whole matter. So that particular jurisdiction, for the court to have jurisdiction over chieftaincy matter, I feel that it is, speaking by what the law has said, the Federal High Court does not have jurisdiction over chieftaincy matter, but it has jurisdiction to determine issues that has to do with breaches of fundamental rights. Because when you look at when the former Emir to Sanusi was dethroned, he was also banished out of the state. He filed an action against the federal, the Kano State government for his banishment. And he won that matter because the matter was solely based on his fundamental right and freedom of movement. So, but if that is based on just fundamental rights alone, the court has jurisdiction, but the court cannot dive into issues that has to do with chieftaincy.
Okay, I want to take you back to the explanation you made earlier when you talked about what status quo implied. I did see an argument where someone had said that if you're looking at status quo being everyone returning to status quo, and that the ruling did say that it affirmed the amendment to the law. It did say that the ruling has voided Sanusi's enthronement because it came after the order, which you did say, but also that it had created a vacuum because it affirmed the law that sort of sacked Bayero. So what would you say, to clarify that, because it has said that it then leaves a vacuum in the Emirates?
Yes, you have actually said it, because there is actually a vacuum, and it is just within a period of time, and that vacuum will be clarified, because the vacuum that has been created is very clear, because the law repealing what brought Emir, the Ado Bayero, has been repealed. And also the law that same law which created 4 Emirates has also been repealed. But when this law has been repealed and a new law has been made, and you said that the governor should not execute this law, there is actually a vacuum that is created. But that vacuum, there is a reason why the courts actually made that order for the status quo. Number one, when a matter is pending before the court and the subject matter is a bit threatening, the court will give an order that the status quo should be maintained, and then for both parties to stay action of whatever thing that they are doing. It has created a vacuum, quite all right. It has created a big vacuum, because there is a law existing on one hand, and there is an emir existing on a law that is not there. And the court has given an order that there should be a stay of execution of action. So I agree with you that there is a vacuum.
All right. So, I mean, now we're hearing about, plans to demolish the palace of Ado Bayero. I don't know if that will happen. But, what do you think happens next? Where do we go from here? And what would you expect would be the next steps, so that Kano also doesn't deteriorate into a complete crisis?
At this stage, I would want to say that despite the whole issue that has transpired, we have seen the news on the media that there are plans to demolish the palace, and then we have also seen news on the media that there is not a plan to demolish actually, but a plan to actually renovate. So we wouldn't know what is the true story of what is happening, but it boils down now to the governor trying to preserve the life and properties in the state. And I will actually advise that in this situation that we don't play politics with the life and properties of people in the state. It behoves on the government to actually apply wisdom and also caution in this particular situation to see that the situation don't degenerate from what it is now.
All right, and there's a lot that needs to be looked at in this case, and we're hoping that we can get some clarity in the nearest future. We just want to confirm, we've gotten a question here that says to ask you to please confirm when the law kicks in, when the law was put to effect. I think they're talking about the amendments, the Kano Emirates law.
Now, the law was made on the 23rd. The Kano Emirates law was made on the 23rd. But the timing of the court, the judgment of the ruling of the courts, and that of the time when that particular law was assented by the governor, there is actually a disparity in the timing. The signing actually came before the ruling of the courts. So, but it was actually done on the same day.
All right. Thank you so much for bringing this update. We hope that there'll be some clarity, and so that the people of Kano can move forward from this eventually. But more importantly, I think also, before we wrap up, the final question would be what you make of the multiplicity of judgments we're seeing, not just in Kano State, across the country. So we're seeing people, federal high courts legislating on matters that they have no jurisdiction over. We're seeing the same matter, two different standpoints and two different judgments. What do you make of it, the role that the judiciary has to play in this form of confusion, and how can this be rectified?
And clearly, we have over the years we have experienced a lot of conflicting judgment, and we have experienced a lot of situation that is an eyesore to the judiciary. And we have also seen situation whereby the politics has entered into the judiciary, and we have seen the judiciary dancing towards to the arena of the politicians too. So the whole situation that is happening is the judiciary dancing to the arena of the political leaders. So that is what is happening in the judiciary, and I think it's something that there has to be a caution, because if caution is not taken, a lot of virtues will be eroded and people will not have trust in the judiciary. Because if conflicting judgment can come from the same courts, and all levels of court can go ahead and dive into issues that are out of their jurisdiction, it signifies that there is a problem for Nigeria. Because as we all know, the judiciary is the common hope of the hope of the common man. And if the common man has lost trust in the judiciary because of the events that has been going on, that is glaring, that that politics has entered into the system, then I think it signifies a problem. So my advice is that the judiciary should take caution, and there is need to call the judiciary to order. Thank you.
This has been, I mean, I almost would call it tradition, for a long time. It's not the first time that we're seeing situations like this, where we can see judges and we can see the judiciary get itself so involved in politics and stains itself, in so badly with these political situations. It's a shame. But thank you very much for stopping by. We will continue to follow up on Kano and see how it turns out. We'll speak with you again.
Having me on the show.
All right. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll be sharing with you what our top stories of the week are.